It was so easy for my Uncle Charlie to go to Bankstown police station and openly and brazenly and confidently lie to the police in the way that he did, saying that I want to hurt him and I have some sort of plan to hurt him and that I haven't seen or spoken to him in 15 years. I think of how revealing that NCAT meeting was. It's an administrative tribunal that you can go to if you're worried about guardianship. My Uncle Charlie had guardianship over his brother Tony, and there was an AVO out against him for the protection of Tony after Charbel had assaulted him. And Charbel was doing things like telling his sister to give him Tony's mail to prevent Tony from going to court and defending himself. Really disgusting, horrific stuff. So when I find all this stuff out, I want to go to the tribunal to have him removed as Tony's guardian, because he's obviously unfit and unwell to have guardianship over him. And when we had that meeting, that guardianship meeting with the tribunal members, and they got to hear our side, so me, Majid, and my Uncle Tony, and Charbel's side about, in relation to whether he should have guardianship over Tony. If you listen to that, you can see how, you can hear how revealing it is about how little care Charbel had over his brother Tony. There was this really damning part where he was reading a letter that was supposedly written by his sister in relation to the AVO matter, where Charbel states that Tony was out on the street without proper food and proper care. And I'd imagine that the member was quite shocked when he heard that, because when Charbel was finished, he was visibly frustrated, or let's just say frustrated. And it came up later. The member wanted to clarify, did your sister really write that? And did you really say that at the AVO hearing? And Charbel said, yep, not realizing how damning it was for him. Yeah, he had financial guardianship and guardianship over Tony's health. So it means he had authority to make decisions about Tony's health. And he openly admitted that he wasn't properly taking care of Tony or feeding him or clothing him. It's disgusting. And it's frustrating that meeting, which was last September, I believe, did nothing but make everyone more frustrated with me. They couldn't understand why I'd be uncomfortable with someone like Charbel to be his guardian. Someone that would crack him over the head with a pestle and break his finger 2 weeks before that. Recently after his divorce, where there's credible rumors that he assaulted his wife on their honeymoon. The fact that didn't sound any alarm bells at all, and still doesn't, in my Lebanese Maronite community in Sydney, is disgusting. There's no other way around it. It's completely inexcusable. I understand people are uncomfortable with that because of who he is, and I suppose what he said, or the way that he characterizes himself, it might be confusing to some. But it's just the plain and honest truth. And the reasoning behind why Charbel is the kind of person that he is clear when you factor in that he suffers from epilepsy. My favorite author was an epileptic, Theodore Dostoevsky. Um, he had epileptic fits, and he suffered from these bouts of mania that he, suffered from all his life. Raskolnikov, Crime and Punishment, um, the the mania, the moral anguish that Raskolnikov feels after he murders the landlady and was it her daughter? Um, that state is mania, right? Dostoevsky would have gone through that because he's an epileptic and he would have felt that. Again, epileptics share very similar symptoms to people that suffer from bipolar disorder. Raskolnikov was going through a mania. What led him to murder his landlady in Crime and Punishment was the kind of rage. That Napoleon complex. Not Napoleon complex. That idea that he was a Napoleon, a god, that he wasn't held to the same standard, is the kind of delusions of grandeur that I'm very familiar with as someone that suffers from those episodes. And I fear that someone like my uncle clearly suffers from those, and that's not being properly sort of looked at in the community when he's harmed so many people. He's an epileptic that suffers from mania, and probably in one of his bouts of mania, he felt compelled to get an EPA on his mum, for his mum, and an enduring power of attorney over his mum. But no, that's probably not right. What led him to remove his brother, the ideas behind that, because it's very unusual. No, I have to remove you as equal share in our authority over our mum. It has to be mine only because I don't trust you, all of a sudden, older brother, because he's got his ideas in his head, right? And he's medicated. Well, he's supposed to be medicated. Ask him if he's taking his medication. I'd want someone to ask him, I should say. Yeah. Prince Muishkin, the idiot, probably suffered from some sort of mania as well. It's kind of interesting when you think about that. You look at Dostoevsky's work through the lens of mental health, and someone that suffers from mania, then it sort of makes sense. And you think about particular traumas triggering manias, and the bigger the trauma, the bigger the mania. And Dostoevsky was in front of a firing squad and was about to die, and then he was pardoned in the last minute, and it was after that he began writing. It's a fascinating thing about. I forgot the name of his first novel, but that's basically letters between someone struggling from some sort of emotional mania, a depressive state, that's writing letters to a woman. I haven't read that book in years, but in my mania I was thinking of things like that. I understand that in a manic state, it's all heightened emotion. You feel like you're in the presence of God. you feel like you want to kill yourself. You feel like you're the happiest person alive. You feel like you're the greatest person alive and then the worst. And you cycle through these sometimes every hour, every day, every week. But it's, for me, it was daily, hourly. It was extremely exhausting. And it led to a lot of unfortunate things that I think are understood now. But at the time, I'm sure it was very concerning to a lot of people. But the odd thing from my point of view is that my cognitive abilities were fine. I was clear, meant like rationally, right? I can rationalize everything, but my emotions were just off the Richter scale, and I was trying to rationalize. Oh, I feel so angry by this person because he did something to me. So not realizing that I was first feeling the emotion and then just being really good at rationalizing the emotion. So yes, this person has done something so massive to me that I must do something so massive to them. You rationalize it, right? And I think I was like that for a very, very, very long time. But I lost control from February, basically. And it was harder for me to sort of keep that under wraps. It got really, really, really bad when I came back from Europe. And then that sort of emotional outburst sort of just spread to other people in the community. I felt that so many other people in the community had gone through what I'd gone through, and rather than helping, they just were made to feel more uncomfortable because perhaps they saw themselves in what I was doing and were sort of embarrassed for me and wanted to sort of like make me go away rather than try to help me, But all I really needed was to be calmed down by someone that cared. I was put under so much pressure for so long by bad, toxic people, that I broke. I burst, unfortunately. But I knew why I was bursting because the cognitive abilities were still there. And I just knew that, okay, I just have to keep control of these emotions, but I couldn't. I could say that now confidently. I can say that now confidently that I could not control my emotions. They were uncontrollably strong and scary. And I didn't know what to do about it. I just had to wait it out, I suppose. I didn't have a good, robust support network for people to bring me down from that mania, unfortunately. In that mania, rather, it was revealed that people were far worse than what I thought. And rather than help me, they made everything far, far worse. And they prolonged a public facing mania. And I'm okay with saying that because I know how forgiving and loving my family and community is or are. And I know that they only want the best for me. And I know that this is ultimately a good message and a good thing. And you shouldn't be afraid or hold back when you believe you're being pursued by a good thing. Unless you're suffering from a massive mania where that good thing is too strong, where rather than a lovely podcast in your office to get your thoughts out and to help you with that sort of anxiety and with those thoughts and all that stuff, rather than doing that, you remove your elder brother from guardianship of his mother. You construct this elaborate a trust fund with two trusts and all this sort of stuff, so you could be leader and have ownership of all of your father's assets when he passed away. You know, that's not how you should express yourself in your manic state. I'd suggest to Charles Charbel, Charlie Tawk, to take up swimming. I found that very effective. Nice walks in the park, you know. He needs to get outside of his head, I'd say. Because his head must not be a terribly pleasant place. I think that's important to say. Because someone that would have sexual intercourse with someone when I'm passed out on the couch after my lelia is going through something. Because I believe he was even seeing his wife at the time. This was 6 years ago. His ex-wife. This was 6 years ago. I know he had a partner, which is why I assumed that he paid for that intercourse. And I know that part of mania is, you know, a heightened sex drive, let's just say. And to do something like that after a lelia, when I'm passed out, it shows signs that he lacks control of his sexual urges. He might have been going out with his ex-wife at the time. I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me. He is that kind of person. And it's interesting because it's around that time that he was having, you know, D&Ms with me and telling me about his crush on Yara. So, you know, perhaps he was just a sleaze to her as well. I hope not. Part of me feels compelled to say that, just in case. But I know that he does make women feel uncomfortable at parties. And I find that so interesting after what happened to Danny at Saeed's Bucks, that in a room full of drug addicts, not all of them, but actually no, I shouldn't say that. No, I don't want to be mean. In a room full of guys, you know, that are snorting cocaine and topless waitresses and just mountains of alcohol and drugs, the sleaziest, most unsafe element was Danny, a young 19-year-old man who'd been here for a year after coming here from Lebanon because he was so influenced by his Uncle Charlie. I'm sure that to him, to Danny, speaking in the manner that he did to the women that night showed the kind of person that he really was and the kind of damaging effect that an uncle like Charlie would have on someone that has such an amazing, good, beautiful father. Christian, good, baked into the earth. Amazing father. For a son to do that, it's not the fault of the father. It's the fault of the uncle, Charlie. And that gives me an opportunity to shine a light on Charbel, another Charlie. A good Charlie, beautiful, blonde-haired, fair-skinned Charlie, Johnny's son. He owns a butchery, Tawk Butchery, in a bucks full of just a lot of sweat and drugs and just not the height and pinnacle of honor, right?